this is Kimberly with Skiatook Bee Supply.
And Dutch with Mystic Mountain Homestead. Please take a second to like, subscribe, and smash that thumbs up button.
Today we're going to go into episode 4 of Come Prepare With Us. And one of the things that we're concentrating on in preparedness is eggs. There's a little bit of a short supply of eggs right now. The cost of eggs have gone up. And if you're fortunate enough to know a local farmer, or you are purchasing eggs that are from the grocery store, we have a couple different ways that you can preserve those eggs. And one of our number one way of preserving eggs is to prepare some fresh eggs for later. And as you can see, this jar right here, this is, and you can see it down into the top of it, these are fresh eggs. There's a little bit of a crust on top. And
what is that, salt?
That's lime water.
Lime? Okay.
Yeah, and these eggs are quite beautiful. These will be just like fresh eggs, and they will be good up to 9 to 12 months, just like this in this state. So we can take these out, rinse them under a little cool water, and make scrambled eggs. We can make omelets. We can have eggs over easy. It's just like getting fresh eggs. And so this is a way that we can preserve eggs, and I've done this for several years. So this is a very successful way of storing eggs for that time of the year when your hens slow laying down in the winter. So this year we're doing it a little early to make sure that we have plenty of eggs stored back. You can see I've got 2 big jars here, and I've done it in a 5-gallon bucket. But this time I've decided I'm going to do it in these jars so that I can just set on the countertop, and they will be right there handy for me to use in my kitchen. So there's other ways of preserving eggs, and what I want to do is I want to go over each one of these step by step. So this method of preserving eggs, you're going to need just something simple. You're going to need some fresh eggs. Preferably fresh eggs from the hen house that are completely clean. Now, if they've got a little bit of straw from the nest on them, that's okay. You can take that off, but don't wash these eggs. You want them to keep their bloom, because eggs have a natural bloom on them. So we'd really like those eggs to keep that bloom, and that helps hold in the goodness and keep bacteria out. So when we're looking through these eggs, I see a couple in here we probably wouldn't be able to use for that. So we wouldn't be able to use this egg, but this egg here would be just fine to use for this method. So you're going to want to carefully check each egg and make sure that there's no cracks in it. You don't want any cracks, no even hairline cracks. We want the egg to be completely uncompromised for this procedure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a quart container and fill it full of water. And for every quart of water that goes into our container, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of this pickling lime. Now, this is hydrated lime. You can get it in the canning section, usually at your local grocery store. You may have to search a little bit to find this. Sometimes you can get hydrated lime at your gardening section of certain stores also. But make sure it is hydrated lime, okay? And so this is pickling lime. So this is what we're going to be using. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons per quart of water. And it's just that simple. I mix those up in that quart. I pour them into my jar. And then I start adding these eggs that I've already checked. And I just gently lay them down into the bottom of the jar. And then if it starts to get to where the eggs are sticking out just a little bit, we want the eggs completely covered in the solution. We're going to make up another jar and just keep adding the liquid until your eggs are completely covered, just like these are. We want the water completely over the top of the eggs. Okay, and the same thing with this jar. If I can get the lid off. Well, maybe I won't right now. But you can see that these eggs are completely covered all the way to the top. You're going to see the sediment in there, but that's okay. So this is a wonderful way to preserve fresh eggs for use for 9 to 12 months. But we like to preserve them in several different methods, and these do not require any refrigeration. Now, we also like to pickle eggs. And when I pickle eggs, I don't really can them. I keep them in the refrigerator. And this is some of our pickled quail eggs. And we just enjoy these for snacks. We enjoy them for like hors d'oeuvres and things like that. Or they're great in a salad. And pickling eggs is, you can do it with chicken eggs, you can do it with quail eggs, you can do it with duck eggs, any type of egg that you would have available to you, as long as it's a fresh egg and you want to boil those eggs. So as you can see here, we have boiled quail eggs. And when you boil quail eggs, you just boil them for 5 minutes, let them set till the water cools. I dump that water off, and then I put fresh cool water on them and let them set for a little bit before I begin peeling. And then once I peel them, I'll pack them into my jars. I mix up a pickling solution, and this is a little extra pickling solution, and you can see I have some spices in there. I have a little turmeric in there. I have some mustard seeds, some garlic. You can make the seasoning and spices the way you want. But as far as the liquid is concerned, you want half vinegar, half 5% vinegar, and half regular water. Now, anytime I use water in any recipe, I use my Berkey water or filtered water for that. So that's what this is. I just had extra. Usually I'll heat that on the stove and then let it cool before I pour it over my eggs. And then I'll just put the lid on nice and tight, set it in the refrigerator, and within 2 weeks, our eggs have taken on the pickle flavor and they're ready to eat. So this is a way that we preserve eggs. Another way that we preserve eggs here at the homestead is by doing dehydration. Now, I'm not telling you that you can eat dehydrated eggs, although I think it's fine, but there are some powers that be that say that this is not an approved method. You can also freeze dry eggs, but I don't have a freeze dryer. So this is our method of doing it. We've done it very successfully.
And you just freeze them afterwards?
I don't freeze them. I set these in the refrigerator. You need to keep these dehydrated eggs in a cool, dark place. So for me, I just stuck them in the refrigerator.
A cellar would work though?
A cellar would work great. Or even a room in your home that stays cool. You don't want them to get real warm. But one of the things I noticed when I dehydrated them, and it was really simple to dehydrate, and I'm going to go over that, but I noticed that the texture was still oily. But that oil and that fat is something that you're going to want in your diet. And without that, the eggs wouldn't do as well. So that is important. I wouldn't damp the oil off of the eggs. And these I've crushed up. So how I make these dehydrated eggs, and I just use these in recipes, like if I'm baking a cake, if I'm making cornbread, anything that calls for an egg or two, I will use a tablespoon of this for the substitute for an egg. And this is the egg whites and the yolks mixed in together, so nothing's wasted. So what I do, I would just take my fresh eggs, and I would, in a measuring cup, I usually drop 6 eggs into it, and then take a fork and beat it really well. And when you think you've whipped it enough, whip it just a little bit more. And then I have these wonderful trays that I got on Amazon, and you can go to the Amazon link below and see these trays. But these are silicone trays, and these have been in here for an hour or so. So you can see they're starting to dry. It'll take longer for the thicker parts of where the egg is. In this, it's kind of separated a little bit, the yolk from the white, just a little, but that's okay, because when I mix it all up and crush it all together, it'll store just like what you saw in the jar there. So I have these nice trays, and I will tell you the name of them here in just a minute, but these are silicone trays, and what I do is I put them in the dehydrator, pull this out just this much, and then I pour the eggs out of the measuring cup from the spout right onto the tray, and then I just slightly give it a little tilt so it spreads out nicely. That way I don't make such a mess, because
how long does it take to dehydrate?
Well, I like everything I dehydrate to be very crisp. So I will dehydrate these for 10 hours, and then sometimes I'll go back and I will do another 5 hours. You want
so 10 to 15 hours.
10 to 15 hours. I think the recommended is 10. That's what they say is necessary, but I find that there's different parts that are going to dry quicker, and I don't want any moisture left in it, because when you leave the moisture in it, that's when you start having mold problems and things like that. And in that case, I would not ever consume them if that had happened. But I give it a little extra time in the dehydrator. That way I don't have to worry about that happening. So the name of these trays that I really fell in love with for using, I kept the plastic wrap. These are on the Amazon link. It'll be down below. These are called Bright Kitchen, and they're silicone drying sheets. And you can use them for making fruit leathers and all kinds of other things, but they work just absolutely wonderful for the eggs. So this way I have eggs in several different ways. I have them pickled, and then I have them fresh, and these don't require refrigeration, and this doesn't require refrigeration. And when I get this jar completely full, what I'll probably do is go ahead and vacuum seal this jar, and then it'll go into my coolest pantry, where it'll sit on the shelf, and it won't hurt that I've had it in the refrigerator. So this is different ways to store eggs that actually work. I've tried in the past to do the waxing or the oiling of the eggs, and the success was not very good. So this has been a tried and true method for me to have fresh eggs. This has given us eggs for salads, and then this has been a method that gives us dried eggs for baking. So I hope that helps you be able to preserve some eggs and add it to your preparedness list, because eggs are a wonderful source of protein. And right now they're higher in the supermarket than normal. There's talk of the bird flu, and there's been a lot of chickens slaughtered. So I think this is a wonderful thing for people to do, to actually fill their pantry and larder with these different ways of storing eggs.